Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the best new and returning player decks during Fractured in Alterac Valley after the Rogue nerfs. The Rogue nerfs changed the meta quite a lot, and also we're getting closer to the standard rotation, so there's two new aspects compared to early Fractured in Alterac Valley analysis of these decks. First of all, of course, which are good in the meta right now after the Rogue nerfs, and second, now that the rotation is closing in, which cards are rotating out and which cards are going to be staying so that they will be useful during the next standard year as well. If you're not familiar with this free deck concept, there are a couple of cases where you can get a free deck. First of all, if you complete the apprenticeship and reach bronze 10, so you're a new player, you play through the 40 ranks of apprentice, and then when you hit bronze 10, you get the deck. You can also skip these apprentice ranks by going to settings, but if you skip the ranks you will not get the pack rewards you get from climbing through apprentice, but you will still get the deck when you hit bronze 10. Also, if you're a returning player, you have not logged into the game for 120 days, you log in the game, you get a deck. And this free deck is limited to one time per account, so if you have returned earlier you got a deck, and then you return again, and you won't be getting anything again, sorry. But that said, let's take a look at the actual decks. First of all, we have Demon Hunter, and this Demon Hunter deck is really a weird mix of two Demon Hunter archetypes, because Fell Demon Hunter and Death Rattle Demon Hunter are both playable Demon Hunter archetypes, although both of them require Kurtra's Demon Render, the Demon Hunter hero card. This deck does not have that hero card, and it does have Jace Darkweaver and it has Deathspeaker Blacktone, which are the key other legendaries in those archetypes. They're kind of cramped here together, where they should be in two separate archetypes. So if you have access to other cards, you can use this deck to split it up and build two different archetypes from it. Also, the legendary cards are going to be staying after standard rotation. The only expensive card here that's rotating out is the Fellsteel Executioner. So there are some reasons to choose this deck, but you can't really play it like this. It's pretty bad like this. You need other cards to make it work. And then there is Aggro Druid, and after the Rogue nerfs, Aggro Druid is doing pretty well. You typically would like to run Drektar in that list, and Drektar is available for free, especially if you pick Horde. So yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. You get the important epic cards, Oracle of Elune and Composting. Neither of those are going to be rotating out. You get Kazago's Column Shaper, but you can't play that if you play a Drektar list. But it is not rotating out of standard format yet, and you could use that in a Beast Druid deck, which would be a little bit more expensive, but it would also make use of Oracle of Elune and Composting. The card that is rotating out in the standard rotation is Greybow, and Greybow is not really used in these archetypes right now anyway, so that's not a big loss. This deck is immediately playable to an extent, and there are some ways to improve it into a good deck. Then we have the Hunter deck, which is a Quest Hunter. Early in Fractured in Alterac Valley, Quest Hunter was a great pick because it also gave you a great deck for Wild, but after the nerf in Wild for Quest Hunter is not really doing that well there anymore. So you will still get a quest line. None of the quest lines are rotating out, so all the quest lines are potentially powerful. Devented Dwarven District is still going to stay. Quest Hunter is kind of okay in standard right now, not this list though, but you could modify this to be okay. Barak Kodobane, another good legendary, also going to stay in the rotation. Rinling's Rifle, very strong card right now, but rotating out in April. So if you really like Hunter, you could pick this deck and you could improve it into a playable version, but overall it's a little bit weaker than many of the other options. Not as weak as this Mage deck though. This Mage deck is awful. This type of Mage decks are not in a great position. Questline Mage, Sorcerer's Gambit, Grand Magus, Antonidas both staying in standard format. Devolving Missiles rotating out, Ignite is staying, but Ignite Mage in Wild was recently nerfed, and yeah, this is just, don't touch it, this is awful. And I would also be hesitant to touch the Paladin deck. While Paladin is doing fine as a class, and this is giving you some high quality cards like Mr. Smite and Blademaster Samuro, both of which are going to be staying in standard format for next year as well, but this specific Paladin archetype is not doing too well right now, and Paladin is very expensive as a class. There are lots of good legendary cards in Paladin, so updating this deck will be very expensive. The Priest deck is interesting, because after the Rogue nerfs, Aggro Shadow Priest became a thing, and this gives you two very strong legendaries to build Aggro Shadow Priest, Dark Bishop Benedictus and Mr. Smite, neither of which are rotating out either. This specific type of Aggro Shadow Priest doesn't really work. This Disciplinarian Gandling, Death Imp Murloc Tinyfin approach, it's just too weak right now. Gandling is also going to rotate out of standard format, but you don't really want to use that anyway. But the current meta Aggro Shadow Priest uses 2 more legendary cards in addition to these, so whether you have the tools to upgrade this into that one, well, I don't know, do you? Then we have Rogue, and well, Rogue was just nerfed. This is a Quest Rogue, and Quest Rogue is kind of mediocre. It's playable, but it's not great. Find the Imposter, the questline obviously is going to stay in standard format, but Envy of the Red Smoke, Secret Passage both are going to rotate out. Mediocre deck, many cards rotating out of standard. I don't think I would pick this one. Then again, Shaman is very promising. This is a Quest Shaman deck, Command the Elements, Overdraft, both really important cards in the archetype, both are going to be staying in standard format. This is easy to update into a top tier meta deck, doesn't need anything but commons and rares to do the upgrade. Instructor Fireheart is going to rotate out with the standard rotation, that's fine. Deck that is like borderline playable in its current form, it could be upgraded with only commons and rares into a top tier deck, so yeah, it's definitely an option. The Warlock deck was the best deck out of the box in early Fractured in Alterac Valley, and do you know what? The Warlock deck is still best deck out of the box in late Alterac Valley as well. The Demon Seed, just strong questline even after all the nerfs. Demon Seed and Etron going to be staying in the format. Flesh Giant will rotate out. So this specific type of quest hand Warlock with these big giants might not be playable after the rotation. You might be able to upgrade it into something else. The questline is seeing play in other archetypes as well, but how good this will be after the rotation is a big question. But right now, very strong deck on the ladder, so if you just want to have a good deck that you can play, no changes, straight into the ladder, then this is your choice. And finally we have Warrior, and that is pretty sad, because Big Warrior is not doing great right now, and then the best cards in this list are rotating out of standard format in April. Bulwark Vasinet, Rattlegore, both will be gone. You'll only get to keep some epics, so this one is one of the decks that you really want to avoid. So overall it is not a bad set of decks, but you can really go wrong by picking like Mage or Warrior for example. Warlock is the best deck out of the box, you can just play that deck to Legend right now, even without any changes. It will lose Flesh Giant in the rotation, so you might be concerned about that. Then we have Shaman, easy to modify into a top tier list. Priest, Druid, can potentially be modified in top tier lists, can be a little bit more difficult, can be a little bit more expensive, but not an impossible task. And then there's the Demon Hunter, which is like 2 archetypes cramped into one, but if you can split it up and build those 2 separate decks out of it, then you can make something good out of that one too. So, there are multiple viable options depending on what you like to play, and I hope that this brief introduction can help you make up your mind on which one of these is just the right one for you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my Twitch channel.